Hey everybody, we are live. This is episode 307, Almost Sideways Podcast. Surprise! Here we are. Let's do it. Hello. Yes, episode 307 of the Almost Sideways Podcast. We are live on YouTube and all the other social medias for another very special Top 10 Countdown. We're recording this on Sunday, February 2nd, 2025 at 3 p.m. Pacific time, and we are here to celebrate the first half of a decade.
Already?
Is that real? We're halfway through the 2020s somehow. And we've been podcasting through the whole thing, which is kind of ridiculous too. But yeah, and we're all here this time. So I'm Terry, we've got Zach, we've got Todd, we've got Adam. Adam is here. We found him, hashtag Adam in the wild, who apparently has become a Brewers fan. So
yes.
Is that a playoff beard?
Yeah, this is my Justin Turner brand. They were calling me Brandon Woodruff.
Oh, okay. I can see that.
Yes, I was at Brewers Fantasy Camp for a week ago. So yeah, it was a lot of fun experience. A lot of good friends made. A lot of bad baseball played. I batted over 600, so that was really good. A couple triples, doubles.
So they're like one Cap Anson numbers. Quad.
Yeah,
it's like 1880s.
Funny. Ichiro made the Hall of Fame. I want to just share one Ichiro Hall of Fame story that one of the clubbies in the clubhouse actually shared with me. He said when Ichiro was DHing near the end of his career, if he got out, he would go into the clubhouse, do a bunch of weird stretches that he's never seen anybody ever do, sit in his little locker and just fan himself down with like a Japanese fan for like 10 minutes, and then go back out there. But he would never eat anything at the clubhouse, and he wouldn't take a shower after the game. He would just put on his other clothes and just leave right away. So it's like I've never seen anybody do that before, but hey, it worked out for him. So pretty fun story.
Hey, he's a Hall of Famer for a reason.
Yes.
Zach, confidence going into next week.
Oh, well, this week off, or as it's known at my house, Passover, but is always a fun week. It's 62 degrees here today. Hopefully Patrick Mahomes will preserve second half leads better than this goddamn Jayhawk team. I mean, come on, blowing a 19-point lead to Baylor unranked. Shame of Jayhawk Nation, shame of the Midwest. I just hope that when I'm there in 2 weeks, the weather is as pleasant and amiable as it is here, although the winning will not be as plentiful. But I'm very excited for today. This has been something I've been looking forward to for the last 5 years.
Well, there you go.
It's like when we do our mid-year. It's like our mid-year episode, but it's a mid-decade episode, so it should be like July. But it's just not July weather quite yet. But that's okay.
Well, here it's mid-30s, and there actually were snowflakes falling from the sky, which means everyone thinks we might not have school tomorrow. Which I'd be okay with. And then we're supposed to snow tomorrow night too. And I don't know. We'll see how it all goes. Let's hop into this. What are we drinking today, guys? Let's start with.
We're not going to ask how Todd is. How's Todd? I want to hear how Todd is.
Hey, Todd, how's it going?
We don't have time for that.
How you doing?
Where's the Todd soundbite? Hi, Todd.
I'm working on it. There.
I'm totally fine. I am here.
Todd.
I think it's an interesting episode because I was thinking about it. Like 5 years is not an insignificant amount of time. Like there's been consistent movie making for like 100 years or so. So this is 1/20th of that time. And I'd be willing to guarantee we've seen more movies in these last 5 years than in any other 5-year clip in history. So one of these should be like a top 20 movie. Maybe 5 of them should be a top 100 movie or even more, because this is more weight put on like how many movies we've seen in these 5 years. So this is an interesting exercise that I don't think anybody else is doing. So I'm excited.
We're talking through a top 10. I have a top 25 that I'll reveal at the end. And to go with your point there, Todd, I did the math. Movies that were made or released from 2020 to 2024 make up 17.6% of the movies I've ever seen.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I don't think of it as like these movies are going to be top 100 movies that are on this list, but they really probably should be if they're on this list, right?
Yeah, they're. I looked at it. Yeah, there's stuff
are such a snob and only give top 100 spots to old movies or movies about teenage girls. Well, Zach will do that anyway.
No, now Terry has me. I'm working on a very extemporaneous top 25 list. God damn, Terry, I didn't even think to do that. All I've been thinking about is I'm going to leave these stupid movies off, and now you're like, oh, top 25. Well, now, that's a great idea.
Well, because I was like, we're going to have an honorable mention. We're going to have an honorable mention, so it's like, well, might as well organize it.
I really wanted to mention Palm Trees and Power Lines and other teen girl movies. I mean, this is a great opportunity. The Bat Mitzvah movie, I can now mention it. I'm really excited.
All right. Well, there you go. Zach, what are you drinking?
I'm having some fabulous Chiefs brewed Agua Fria. But I really want to hear about because the dry January, I'm mostly curious about Terry's experience because obviously it's a brutalist time to be alive. And Terry, it sounds like you actually indulged last night. There was a tasting.
I had a glass of wine with dinner. Yes. So yeah, I broke the dry January on February 1st. So there you go. And I'm breaking out my first beer of 2025 right now too. So I'll go ahead and go. I figured this is how I started the 2020s. So it's how I'm ringing in this halfway point. A few months ago, I was in the Portland area and stopped at my favorite brewery, Ridgewalker Brewery, which is now closed. However, funny enough, they had to close their like restaurant and like tap room. And it sounds like they've like reimagined themselves by taking over the bar at a local independent movie house. So that's not a bad fate for a brewery to have. So you go to the movies, you walk in the door, and there's Ridgewalker out there. But anyways, this is their what is it? Jormungandr Nordic Red Ale. That's what I'm drinking. So
nice.
The few I have today was a day to bust one out. So there we go. 6.5%. It'll be a good one. It was one where when I opened it, like it didn't have a tss, and the reason is because it was filled to the top. There was no space for air to escape because there was no air left in it. Adam, what are you drinking?
Yeah, I did not partake in anything dry. I've been drinking a lot actually. I got some Screwball. I just got some regular Screwball.
Dry whiskey. That's what Adam's dry January was. He only drank dry whiskey.
Yep. No cubes.
Screwball's good. Screwball's good. Todd.
So since it's snowing, I bought some hot buttered rum mix, but I didn't have any rum or bourbon, so the liquor in it is peppermint moonshine. So hot buttered rum with peppermint moonshine, and it tastes like Christmas, and it's very cozy.
Gee, I wonder where you got that peppermint moonshine. May have been a Christmas gift from your brother.
May have been Christmas, yeah.
May have been Christmas.
Peppermint moonshine. That's Paul Thomas Anderson's sequel to Licorice Pizza, right?
Should be.
It should
Long
be.
awaited.
Moonshine Kingdom.
We should be recording this. All right. Hey, we are. Well, let's get into this. We're talking about the best movies of the first half of the 2020s, the 2020s so far. But if we're going to count up, we also have to count down. And start with the bottom 5 movies of the 2020s so far. And I think, let's see here. Last week we went me, Zach, Todd, and then the imaginary Adam. So Ghost Runner Adam, we'll say. So I think we're going to start with Adam, as long as he remembered that he was supposed to get this.
I forgot about this.
Oh, did he forget about this?
The bottom 5? No, I got
Bottom
this.
5.
I got
Oh,
this.
he's got this. Okay. So we'll go in reverse order this time. So Adam, you're up.
All right. Kicking off the bottom of the list from 2022, The Bubble. 2024, I got Borderlands coming out of 4. 2022, Jeepers Creepers Reborn. 2020, Artemis Fowl. And the worst movie, 2021, The Addams Family 2. There we go.
All right.
Wow.
All right.
It really that one was personal because Adam's Family was not Adam's Family.
No, it was
false advertising.
Like,
you thought the movie
this?
was about your family, and it's
was
false
a documentary.
Exactly, Adam's Family, and it wasn't even well, it probably was a sequel, but where was the original Adam's Family?
It's a lot better.
I love
that one.
That Todd, bottom 5.
Okay. Yeah. I saw a lot of bad movies the last 5 years. Kicking it off, number 5 is Space Jam: A New Legacy, which was awful. I remember how much fun we had reviewing that on the podcast. Number 4, Don't Look Up, which was nominated for Best Picture. Still don't understand that. It was a very, very bad movie.
It's always good when the Best Picture nominee ends up in the up in the bottom 5.
Number 3, I have The Killing of Kenneth Chamberlain, which I had to watch for a screener for at the Screen Awards.
Yeah. Seen that.
Had very good reviews, and it's not a good movie. Number 2, Thor: Love and Thunder, which is one of the worst movies I've seen in a long time. And the worst movie is The Prom, which is it's just so dumb and misguided. It was that a Ryan Murphy movie? I think. Yeah, Ryan Murphy. Right. With a great cast, including Ariana DeBose and Meryl Streep and Nicole Kidman, and it was terrible. And I don't think anybody else saw it. Honestly, I'm kind of jealous of you people.
Nope, didn't see it.
No. All right, Zach, bottom 5.
If we did a worst performance list, James Corden would be number 1.
But Cats was the last decade, so we can't put that on the list, sadly. Number 5, 80 for Brady, which someone on this podcast gave a thumbs up to.
Pinot nominated too.
Number 4, Academy nominated Elvis. Unwatchable, terrible.
Wow.
Yeah. Number 3, Space Jam: A New Legacy. But I will say, I don't really remember that movie that well. A part of me wants to almost give it a break because I'm thinking to myself, like, it couldn't have been that bad. I mean, we all hated it, and it's a steaming pile of garbage. But, like, I actually remember more of Elvis being objectionable. So maybe I should change it. I'm going to do a last-minute audible here just to make things more interesting. I'm going to put in number 3, Cocaine Bear. That movie stunk, okay? And that was supposed to be a funny movie. That was supposed to be enjoyable, and I hated it. Number 2, Megalopolis. And, well, I don't remember what made Space Jam so bad. And number 1, With a Bullet, The Bubble, which I think would be in my top 5 worst movies of all time at this point.
All right, moving on to me. We're saying a lot of the same movies here, so you'll hear some repeats. Number 5, Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire.
Yeah,
it was my number 1 worst movie of 2024 that I talked about last week. Yeah. Number 4, Next Goal Wins, with the Taika Waititi directed movie about the American Samoa soccer team. Number 3,
we got a lot of like Oscar directors mentioned in these lists.
Yeah. Number 3, Anyone But You. That movie just
good one.
Horrible. Glenn Powell and Sydney Sweeney. Sydney Sweeney just
that one. Yeah.
Number 2, The Bubble.
Yeah,
and number 1 is Space Jam: A New Legacy. I'm waiting now for Space Jam: A New Legacy 2, where LeBron teams up with Luka and conquers the world, fighting against the evil empire of the Mavericks. Yeah. How the hell did that trade happen? Like that just
I saw that.
That's just mind blowing. I don't follow the NBA, but like,
I think it's funny the Lakers had to trade a 2029 pick because they've traded away all their picks for like ever. I thought I didn't even know they had picks available at any point in the future.
Yeah,
it was such a big trade that it even showed up on MLB trade rumors. It was weird.
Yeah.
It seemed like a fake trade.
Yeah, Schefter posted like this would be like if Lamar Jackson was traded for Joe Burrow mid-season.
It feels like a trade generated by AI or something. Like it shouldn't be allowed, you know, like
trade that Terry would do in his PS2 video game.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. I would. I totally would.
Yeah,
it's a good call. All right, well, there's the worst of the first half of the decade. Let's get into the best of the first half of the decade, and let's see here. There it is. There's our lovely graphic. Thank you to Adam for creating our graphics for us. Yeah. We are going to count down the top 10, fill up this board of the top 10s of the 2020s so far. And to start that off, we are going to go to Adam first. So Adam, give us your number 10.
All right. Let's see. Let me flip this around here. So
there you go.
Do some typing.
It's like that.
All right.
And Todd, you want to do the numbers again?
So this is tough. This list was, I've kind of played with this list quite a bit. I've also now have 25 movies on a top 25 list now. Thanks, Terry, for that homework.
No problem. Give your stats too. Don't forget your stats.
Yes. Okay. Stats before I get to number 10. I've seen 678 movies in this last 5 years.
It's almost your batting average.
It's almost my batting average. Yeah, 667 was what my batting average was. So okay. I got a 58% thumbs up rating. So 396 films thumbs up. So there we go. All right. So number 10 for me, we have to go to 2024. We're talking about Challengers, my number one film of 2024. This movie is definitely a banger. I think Challengers and Nora on any given day could definitely flip-flop here, and we'll probably see that going forward on some of these ones because they're really rewatchable. And Challengers I've seen a couple times now, and I have an absolute blast. I can definitely see this moving up and up and up. It's paired with the Nora, which they're just so equally watchable, and we'll talk about I'm sure we'll talk about Nora at some point. But I love the performances from Josh and Mike and Zendaya there. They're all like really awesome performances, but the Nine Inch Nails, that soundtrack is exhilarating. And I just enjoy this movie quite a bit, and I'm becoming a Luca Guadagnino fan really quickly. So really like a lot of his movies. So I'm putting Challengers at number 10 on my best of the decade so far.
All right. So let's get us back in the picture here.
Nice.
All right. Challengers number 10. It's a great pick. Zach didn't like it, but I think it was on 3 top 10s last week. So
was it? No, it was only on 2.
Oh, it was on 2. That's right. It was only on 2. I almost had it on there. It was close-ish. Cool. All right. And we didn't get a Merlot there. Remember, Merlot we can shout out, which just simply means table of conversation until it pops up on a later list. Okay. Todd's next. Todd, what is your number 10 of the 2020 so far?
All right. So total movies I've seen in the last 5 years, 973.
God damn.
That's quite a bit. When I noticed I was that high, I was like wanting to get to 1,000, but I mean, that's a lot of movies, and I didn't have time the last 2 weeks to do that. My thumbs up percentage is 52.11%. That's 507 thumbs up. Now, this seems like perfect because I mean, almost every year I do this. Like my thumbs up percentage is between 50 and 52.5%, and so we get a 5-year stretch, and of course, I'm like right inside the number. So, I guess that's a good thing. And for my list, it was weird. Like honestly, like 2024 was one of the, I would say, 3 best movie years of my lifetime. And I was going to have 4 of my top 6 be from 2024. And I was just like, I don't want to do that. We just talked about these movies. So I only put 2 of them on there. And then I just evened it out. There's 2 per year. Just a heads up. My number 10 was one that I had to put in at the last second when I realized I was doing 2 per year. And that is the great movie from 2021 called Quo Vadis Aida.
Wow.
And it's a movie. It's one of those movies that you turn on that you don't really know anything about what it's about. Like it's about the Bosnian conflict, and it's about this interpreter who's playing both sides and also trying to protect her family. It's a fascinating movie. It rips by, and it was one of those movies that I went in knowing nothing, and I walked out like profoundly moved, and I feel like I got a lesson as well. And I was looking. There's the director Yasmila Zabanik actually has a sequel planned to this, which is
wow.
I can't imagine like super unique to even consider doing a sequel to something like Quo Vadis Aida, but I cannot wait for it. So that's my number 10.
All right.
Yes, great
Looking
pick.
Good,
that was my
good.
That was my number 2 of 2021, and yes, awesome movie. It's kind of it would be in my 11 to 25 range. But it's kind of interesting what Todd was saying about last year, because I felt like last year was not a particularly strong year. But regardless, maybe these lists will say more about the years that these movies came out in, or shall we say the varietals. What is the 61, because 61 Cheval Blanc is the greatest of all time, of course. Maybe 2022 was that year. I don't know. But yeah, that was like an interesting thought that I had to kind of assembling the list. Like, what does it say about the years? So I don't know. We'll see. And how what does it say about 24? Like, because these movies, we did just talk about them last week. And I could talk about my number 1 a little bit more too. But we'll see.
All right. Well, let's get into Zach's number 10.
I thought Terry.
By the way, I haven't seen Quo Vadis Aida. I haven't seen Quo Vadis Aida.
I haven't seen it yet.
I need to do that.
Was that a streamer, Adam? You didn't watch it that year?
I don't think it was a streamer. I don't know.
I thought it was a Spirit nominee, but okay.
It came out late. Like it was. I remember watching it right before we came out with our top 10 list, like the week before, and it was streaming, obviously.
It's right now on Tubi and Canopy. So just
there you go. Okay, my number 10 is a movie that did not appear on my top 10 list. It's a movie that I struggled with when we reviewed it. We all liked it, but I even think in my review, I said, I don't know if I can properly assess this movie without seeing it again and having it live with me a little bit. Another thing that was working against it in 2021 was, I think when we reviewed it, we all sort of thought this is going to be the Best Picture winner. And even though its director did win Best Director, The Power of the Dog is a movie that has sat with me. And it's due in part to being on Netflix. So it's very easy to turn on. The Power of the Dog, quietly, and this is what I didn't understand about it at the time we talked about it, it's a hangout movie, okay? These characters are just fun to be around. It's fun to hang out with Jesse Plemons and Kirsten Dunst. It's not really fun to hang around with Benedict Cumberbatch, but that's kind of the point of the movie. The movie isn't really a Western. It's just more about how really asshole people can bring other people down in life. Like, everybody's just having a good time. They're at the restaurant, they're on the cowboy thing, they're grieving Bronco Henry. I get it. But everyone's just chill. And then this asshole comes in with his whistling and his flute or whatever he's playing. No, his little guitar, and he just ruins everyone's day. Anyway, I'll be short. Power of the Dog, great movie, but it does take a little bit of time to understand. It took me really 2 or 3 viewings to quite see what the movie was trying to really engage with. And it's just an awesome movie that, looking back, is clearly a better movie than Coda. Should have won Best Picture, but hey, the Oscars were about good vibes that year, I guess.
You didn't give your stats.
Oh, I'm sorry. 606 total movies, 337 thumbs up. That is a 55.6% thumbs up.
All right. Sounds good. Let's get everybody.
You guys should
back
try it
in
sometime.
here.
Just throw on Power of the Dog. I promise you'll be entertained. To put it on at any point in the movie, it's fabulously entertaining.
I have not watched any of Power of the Dog since the first time I watched it, and I probably should.
I don't think I have either.
I have I own the Criterion. I need to.
I do too. Yeah. I see. All right, so that kind of gets into me here. So, when I was looking at this list, I actually did several rewatches because there were some movies that were really high up on my yearly lists that I'd only seen the one time. I said, well, I got to reevaluate some stuff if I'm going to actually put this together. And it's funny how reevaluating can either validate your your opinion of a movie or completely change it. And so that's something that it did for you for Power of the Dog. Let me get into my stats first here. So my stats, I saw 475 movies on the decade so far. My thumbs up percentage is really high. I gave 338 thumbs up apparently, which is a 71.16 percentage, which is a lot higher than I have been doing.
I've been
like right around like 60, right? Isn't that what I said? Like no, 68 was last. Yeah. So I guess that's about right. My 100 scale, my average rating for the decade so far is 81.9, and I've given 61 4 stars in the decade so far. I throw that out there pretty easily, but it gives me a good pool of movies to look at as I'm doing this. I do not have 2 movies from every decade. I've got one or every year. I've got 1 year with 1, and I've got 1 year with 3. You'll see how that pops up later, but let's get into my number 10. And my number 10 has already been a punching bag once indirectly on this podcast. And my number 10 is Oppenheimer.
There we go.
Now, I think you can compare Oppenheimer and The Brutalist pretty easily as these 2 movies that are these character studies, these long epic character studies. And when we talked about The Brutalist, we talked about how it's this movie that technically is so wonderfully made, but it can be hard to connect with and hard to get into and hard to really sink your teeth into. Where Oppenheimer, it's a technical marvel, but it's so engaging and so watchable. And is it messy at times? Yeah, but everything's kind of messy. Cillian Murphy is amazing. Robert Downey Jr. picking this to be his like break out of the mold type of movie was a great choice too. I don't know. I have rewatched this movie since the theaters, and it holds up. It's just a fun watch, and maybe fun isn't the right. It's an engaging watch, and you are entertained by it while also like you see what we can achieve, kind of like in The Brutalist. The Brutalist, like what can we achieve? What can we build towards? But then it goes to the next level of just because we can, should we? And I think that's a really interesting question that comes out of Oppenheimer. And I love that one. I think it was my number 2 of 2023. And so here it's popping up on this list. So there you go.
It's a good one.
Nice.
Can't be mad at
it's my number 1 too, but I didn't Merlot it because I just said it's my number 1. I wanted to make it my worst of the decade, but I can't quite do it.
Well, you definitely tried to sabotage the Pinots last year by constantly nominating it for worst of everything. I still think
Robert RBJ, that was the worst performance of last year, RDJ, and I would be open to rewatching it, I will say, but I would have to be quite inebriated. No, it would not be able to happen in dry January.
There, well, all right. We've had no Merlots yet. This is kind of interesting. I'm wondering if what's going to come out of this. All right, Adam.
No Merlots. Okay.
Long episode. That's what comes out of it.
All right. So this is one that didn't originally appear on my top 10 list either, but it's one that I feel is has one of the best scores of the decade. It's very brutal in the way it depicts. It's a remake of a Best Picture winner. It definitely won some Pinots in 2022. Wait. Did we do Pinots in 20? Yeah, we did. All Quiet on the Western Front. That's what I'm going to put here at number 9. Nice. This was, I was thinking about, I had a different 2022 movie here, but originally I was thinking Barbarian for being a horror fan, but I was like, the movie that's really stuck with me is All Quiet. The first experience watching it, it's just like you're thrown into this world and you're just following this character and the brutal stuff that he's going through, and the imagery and the score and the scope of the film that Edward Berger puts out there for you. It's definitely by far one of the probably best Netflix movie you could probably say as well. And then when they got that physical copy release, that's even makes it even more appealing to go back and watch. The finale of the film as well is heartbreaking, and yeah, All Quiet on the Western Front, couldn't leave it off the list. I had to at least mention it here. So
good call. I'm
We
glad
all like
one's
That
popped
is in
up.
my next 15. So that's a good. I like the pick.
yeah,
It's a great pick.
definitely a good one.
How was it not on your top 10, Adam? I think
I had The Stranger. The Stranger was the one that I had, the Netflix one, and I was like, it was
a good movie too.
All Quiet it originally was the number 11, and then I don't know, and then you guys were like talking. I was like, I'm gonna do an audible at the last second, and then Terry's like, no, don't do it, just keep it as it is.
Why?
And then,
Audibles are fun.
Yeah, it makes it chaotic. But yeah, All Quiet's a great movie, so got to put it on here.
Well, Zach is the master of the audible, so
He is.
I like that one's represented. That's good. I like it. Keep going. Todd, number 9.
My number 9 is Top Gun Maverick.
Merlot.
That's a Merlot.
I think the
Yeah, I
graphic
pushed the
appeared
button, but-
before anyone said anything.
Yeah.
This is true.
I figured.
Did you like put the Merlot button up there yourself, Todd, or what happened there?
Oh,
yeah,
he
I put it up as
He's in
I
control
was
of
saying
Merlot button.
the name because I knew.
Yeah, definitely
All right,
on
let
there.
me finish typing here, and then we'll keep going.
Nice.
It's yeah, on Paramount Plus, by the way, Top Gun Maverick. So
I watched that on the
Paramount
plane.
Plus.
On a plane ride back from Phoenix. It's still good, man. It's a great movie.
That's a plane ride movie. That'd be an interesting plane ride movie.
I don't know. I just wanted to watch it again. There was something else good. Anyway,
All right.
Zach, what do we got?
Zach, it's to you.
All right, my number 9 movie was my number 6 of the year that it came out in, and according to our archives, no one has seen it except for me. That's fun.
So it's not getting Merlot.
It's definitely not getting. I mean, it's like the opposite of Merlot. It's like no one even bought the goddamn wine. So anyway,
Box beer or box wine.
sure, yes, if you want to say it. Okay, so this is a movie that is unclassifiable. I don't know if it's a movie or not. It's probably a documentary. I'm not quite sure. It's 69 minutes long, and it has 700 votes on IMDb. I've not forgotten this movie since the moment I saw it. It's absolutely a devastating experience watching it. It is called 3 Minutes, A Lengthening, and it is a completely archival movie set in, I believe, 1938. And it is archival footage of a Polish town right before the Nazi invasion. And basically, it's a home movie. And the whole movie is a repeat.
I remember you talking about this one.
The loop of the 3 minutes. Now, sometimes they slow it down. And sometimes there are freeze frames. Other times, the camera actually zooms in. And sometimes it's reversed. There's voiceover, and the voiceover basically talks about how this footage was unearthed, and no one knows what happened to these people. Presumably, they were all either executed or sent to the camps. Maybe some of them fled, like pulled at a Laszlo Toth, and actually were able to get to the United States. But they actually are able to. The most remarkable thing about the movie is they were able to actually find out the identities of some of these people, and some of the surviving relatives actually give their sort of testimony about who these people were. It's an unbelievable kind of historical archiving project. And then they talk a bit about the town too. There's kind of the only time it deviates from the footage is they kind of do a layout of the town's geography, which is really important to understand because the footage is shot from kind of this parade almost like, and we see everybody in the town waving at the camera. And it is just an unforgettable experience. I mean, it's really disturbing. Obviously knowing the fates of these people, and they're all smiling and they all look like, the world is a great place, but it's just a fascinating project. And, if 3 minutes on a loop sounds boring, the movie does an amazing job of making it absolutely fascinating and riveting, especially not just the people in the town, but hearing about how the researchers actually found out about them. So really cool movie. It's on YouTube. It's online somewhere. Maybe it's like a 69-minute YouTube video in essence, but it's a really cool experience. 3 minutes, A Lengthening. Check it out. It's an amazing experience. My number 6 of 21, I think, or 22.
I remember you talking about that movie. That's awesome.
All right. Yeah, I remember that one too. I need to watch that one. I do.
Mhm.
All right. Moving on to my number 9. My favorites, I've realized the first half of this decade are the movies that, or some of my favorites are the movies that kind of come out of nowhere and just like smack you over the head with like amazing filmmaking and a really cool original story that you really didn't see coming. And my number 9 is a great example of that. It was, I think it was like my number 2 or number 3 of 2021. It is, no, that's not the button. Oh wait, that was the button. There we go. Swan Song.
Wow.
The Swan Song
Which
with
one?
Mahershala Ali.
Okay,
Yeah, there were 2 Swan Songs that came out in 2021. This was written and directed by Benjamin Cleary, and it is Mahershala Ali, Naomi Harris, and Awkwafina. Oh, and Glenn Close is in this too. Yeah, that's right. And Mahershala Ali is a man dying of cancer, and he hires a company to make a clone of him to replace him, so that he could, his family won't miss him, and he can live out the rest of his days, and not have to worry about his family losing him. It's such a weird premise, but at the same time, it's kind of this beautiful look at tragedy and how to cope, and looking at coping in a very different way. I don't know. I just love this movie. Awkwafina is also amazing in it as a patient who's already in the program that he confides in and often talks to. Very subtle sci-fi looks in here too. I don't know. I thought this movie just was amazing. It's one you just kind of sink into and just like just sit with, and it blew me away when I watched it. And I have watched this several times since. Swan Song, number 9.
Nice. Well, what's curious about Swan Song is I believe it was number 2 of that year that it came out for you. And your number 1 pick, which maybe is left to be said, I get confused with Swan Song. I kind of think they're the same movie. You must have been in a very specific mindset that year for types of movies, because they were both very cerebral.
They were, yeah. They're very, very similar in kind of, similar in theme, I guess you could say. All right, we're through number 9. Moving on to number 8.
All right, so we only had one Merlot, and it won't stop there because I will be talking about my number 1 film of 2023, and that is Godzilla -1, Pinot nominated film and best special effects at the Oscars as well. I'm a huge fan of this the Showa era of Godzilla movies, and I grew up watching these things, so going to the theater and having that experience in the theater watching Godzilla -1 it really encapsulated my kind of childhood memories and stuff, and seeing what they were able to do on that small a budget, creating some like real like elements in the film, and also had some pretty good kind of story and struggles of like post-war and what we do about honor and stuff with our families, and trying to come together as a country to take down this common threat here as well, and having a possible setup for another one is just fascinating as well. I really enjoy, like I said, Godzilla -1 was my number 1 2023. I know I'm definitely probably the minority, but this is it's just a fun one that kind of encapsulated my thrill of going to the movies, and something that really kind of just took me away and then put me into that world, and I was amazed by it. So Godzilla -1 is number 8 for me.
All right,
that's a great pick. Was there a more satisfying Oscar victory in this decade so far than Godzilla -1 winning visual effects? I mean, that was a great
YouTube short of it. Yeah.
that was a great moment, and that was the one time this decade that they got anything right at the Oscars, and that was a great moment at that ceremony.
Yeah, the first time Godzilla ever got nominated at the Oscars too, and it won. So great, just great all around.
Yeah, everyone loved that win. All right.
Very good movie.
And we all knew it was popping up somewhere. Some may have predicted it higher, actually. Moving on, Todd, number 8.
My number 8 at the time was my number 1 of 2020, and that is Blue Story, directed by Ratman.
Okay, nice.
And yeah, this movie is like just an assault on your senses. It's like kind of a musical. It's sort of built around Ratman's music and some other hip hop songs, but it's about these two friends who are kind of growing up on the opposite sides of the tracks and end up in rival gangs. And it's it is one of those experiences you just sit there and are in awe of just in watching it, and is super intense. Ratman is a great director. He still has his remake of A Prophet coming out at some point, but he had a TV show on Netflix. I actually started watching it. It's sort of like it's the British version of like a Chronicle or something like that. It's really interesting. His visual style and how he mixes music into his stories is fascinating. And Blue Story was a movie that I didn't know anything about when I turned it on. I don't even know why I turned it on at the time, but I'm glad I did, because it was one of my favorite experiences during 2020 and the horrible year that was. So Blue Story.
Nice.
I'm trying to remember if that was the first time I had heard you talk about that movie was on our top 10 episodes, because that happened a few times this decade. Most notably, Adam's number 1 of 2020, which of course came out of nowhere. One of the great moments in podcast history. But
well, no, I mean, I've reviewed Blue Story. I think it may have been on my mid-year list, or I just reviewed it as something I was watching that I watched. But I definitely talked about it before. But on the top 10 was when you realized or remembered it or something. I don't know.
Well, I think the reason at one point, and that was, it was awesome.
We watched it, I think, very shortly after you announced it was your number 1, and it's a great pick. I'd love that you watched this TV show. That sounds amazing.
Nice.
All right, moving on to Zach, number 8.
Okay, my number 8 is my number 1 of 2021. It is very rare when my number 1 movies of the year are documentaries that either says that the year was kind of weak, which maybe it was a little bit, or that documentary was just that great. The documentary is The Rescue, directed by Chai Vasarhelyi and Jimmy Chin. And no, I still have not seen the Ron Howard remake, but I hear that shit's really good. I'm open to watching it. I actually watched The Rescue twice, so maybe that counts for when I should have watched the other one. But anyway, The Rescue, great documentary about the horrific situation in Thailand in 2018 when there was a big flood and these 13 boys and their coach, not teen girls, Todd, teen boys this time, were stuck beneath the ground. And the documentary is all about, the efforts to save them, which were very unconventional, shall we say. The Thai Navy was not doing that hot of a job, so they had to recruit these old British guys to come in who were cave divers. And the movie's just really awesome in the way that it mixes some of the archival footage, but also recreates some of it. And, it's one of those things where like maybe we're there when it happened, and it was obviously a big international story, but the movie looks at this really kind of quirky cadre of old guys that pioneered the rescue, and it's a fascinating human interest story as well as an adventure story. So when I reviewed it, I compared it to like Apollo 13. I think it's got that vibe. It's very inspirational. It's very remarkable that this whole hundreds, if not thousands, of people were dedicated to this task of trying to save these kids, which for a while it seemed really impossible to do. This documentary, I think, captures it just remarkably well. These are really two exciting filmmakers. I love Free Solo. The third one about the guy in the Andes, I didn't love as much, but they love the outdoors and they're really awesome. And The Rescue, really, I'm happy that it was my number 1 of 21. It's a great documentary. Actually, I'll just say right now, my highest ranked documentary of the 2020s so far.
All right. Well, I didn't Merlot it because it's also my number 8.
Oh,
so
there we go.
I'll just keep talking about it. It's one of those. It's one of those stories where you go, I mean, how the only way you would believe this is that it's true. And I think the way they tell it in documentary form is so good. and the way they they mix in the recreated footage, you can't tell what's recreated and what's not. And the operation was so weird and so intricate, and they do such a great job at explaining it, which is kind of, you could say that's kind of the Apollo 13 side of it, is that they're able to make this complex process sound very understandable when that's kind of hard to do at times. It's my highest ranked documentary of the 2020s so far as well. It is it blows you away. And I also have not seen 13 Lives, I think is what it's called. The Ron Howard narrative with, isn't it Vigo and Colin Farrell play two of the divers. It's such a good movie. It's awesome. I had a feeling it was going to be Merlot when I said it, and then you said it first. I'm like, well, we'll just keep the conversation going.
Yeah, I think that speaks to how highly, at least you and I, really love the movie, Terry. Like I don't think there's anything else that movie could offer that the documentary didn't have. Of course, that's very judgmental, and that's, it's not considering maybe that the movie's good, but like that movie, that was everything you needed to know about an amazing story. And there's just cool shit in it. And this has been a pretty good decade so far for documentaries. I mean, I gotta say, I don't rank documentaries that high usually, but some good ones so far.
Square peg in a round hole.
Yeah, that's definitely what it did. Thank you, Cassie. Yeah, well, and it's funny that you say that it reminds you of Apollo 13 when Ron Howard's the one that made the narrative version of it. So, All right, let's move on. Number 7 to Adam.
All right, this might be Merlot. This probably will be Merlot. Take my hand. It's Top Gun Maverick.
Merlot.
Okay, there we go.
There it is.
Now, when you were watching it on a plane, were you thinking about where to place it on your? By the way, is this going to be the highest ranked film that anyone watched on a plane? I feel like the odds are pretty high on that.
That is true, pretty high.
I don't really watch movies on planes.
Yeah,
I don't know. It was the only thing to watch, and yeah.
I feel like that's like a Russian doll sort of thing. Like you're on a plane watching it, but it's about a plane, and then there's a plane that is surrounding you, and it seems very almost like Terry's number. It's like a Terry 2020 top movie. Like it's very cerebral and too weird.
That's true.
All right, let's move on to Todd then, since that was Merlot. Todd, number 7.
Okay, I have at 7, Killers of the Flower Moon.
Merlot.
Which, oh, okay.
Wow.
I like it. Good pick, Adam.
Yes, you're welcome.
All right.
Only 2 of us have it. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate day. That was one of our highest, most wins at the Pinos too, up there anyway.
It was.
It kind of swept everything.
Swept all the big ones, other than Leo.
Let's keep moving. Zach, number 7.
Okay, number 7.
Yeah, good going.
Well, I had a feeling that no one was going to Merlot anything I said, so I'm fine just talking. Number 7.
We all know.
Is,
yeah.
I'll try to be brief. My number 7 is my number 3 film of 2023. It's by the best living filmmakers, the Dardenne brothers. It is called Tori and Lokita. Again, I don't know if you guys have seen it either, so shame on you. But it is an excellent movie about 2 African immigrant siblings, brother and sister, and they are living in France, I think. And it is about basically they struggle to survive. They kind of work these really kind of grimy jobs as drug dealers, essentially. And basically, Tori is the brother, and Tori is Tori's a sister. I'm sorry, I got the names wrong. Anyway, she's a little bit older, and she finds a way to she needs to help her brother get immunity status through his neutralization. And so the way she does that is by working in a drug house underground, growing pot. And, the story from there is really about this inseparable bond that these 2 siblings share. And there's some really, crazy stuff that happens in the movie. It's like, obviously the Dardenne brothers, very much, social realism. So there's a lot of handheld, shaky cameras. There's not any dramatic musical interludes or anything like that. There's no animated sequence in the middle of it. But this is a movie that is about the struggle to survive in a very harsh world where people are not very friendly to you. And basically the love and the bond between the brother and sister in this movie, the question is whether that bond can outweigh the cruelty and the intolerance of the world on the outside. And of course, this has been a decade that everyone talks about immigration, illegal immigrants, and deport them, and blah, 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 blah. And again, this is one of a few movies, along with Io Capitano, which I think really humanizes and it takes a very humanistic look at the immigration process. So I think it's one of the Dardenne brothers' best movies. It's really good. Don't expect a happy ending, but it's awesome. And yeah, one of my favorite movies of the decade for sure.
All right. Yeah, I haven't watched that one yet. But
I've not seen it.
As soon as you say Dardenne brothers, you know it's probably only going to be on Zach's list.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm contractually bound to mention it.
I think so. Like there needs to be a spot on every one of these lists that's reserved for a Dardenne brothers movie for you. All right, let's move on. Number 7 on my list is going to be my number 1 from 2023. It's my first number 1 of a year to pop up, and that is 1001. This was another one of those movies that just kind of came out of nowhere, with a bunch of actors that kind of came out of nowhere. Written and directed by A.V. Rockwell. Teyana Taylor plays Inez, who is this single mother trying to raise her son through all sorts of different stuff going on. Raises him through there's like 3 different eras it kind of works its way through: when he's 6, when he's 13, when he's 17. There's some weird twists and turns at the end, but this one, I mean, just the love that you get and the relationship you get between this mother and son, and the way it plays it out, it's such a beautifully made movie. And I remember when it first came out, I was thrown off a little by the twists at the end. Rewatching it, the twists don't matter as much because of how good the rest of it is. And I just loved this movie so much. And it had to be on the top 10 somewhere. I mean, it was number 1 of a year. It had to be on the top 10. So yeah, my number 7, 1001.
That's a good pick.
Good film. Yeah, it's a good movie.
We all like that movie. Is Avery Rockwell, has she announced that she's doing anything in the future? Do we know anything about upcoming work?
Good question.
She has been
I
in the
looked up for
movie.
all of my filmmakers. So let's see. She does not have anything.
She's
in
got
the works
nothing
right now.
Yeah, nothing in the works. And it was a directorial debut. She's done a whole bunch of shorts, but that was her first feature film.
That's definitely a theme this decade, as a lot of truly great directorial debuts. I think we've already had a couple represent. I think Blue Story was Ratman's debut, right, Todd? And a few others maybe will pop up a little bit later.
Killers of the Flower Moon was not a directorial debut. I just need to throw that out there. Make sure everyone was aware.
Nor was Oppenheimer.
Yeah,
I don't know about Yasmila Stepanek. I don't know if she has any. She had other movies, looks like.
All right, well, let's keep the train going. Adam, number 6.
Number 6, get the Merlot ready, and your memory, because it's going to be The Father, and that's not.
Merlot.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Where's RRR?
Where's RRR?
Where is RRR? That's a good question.
At some point.
You'll have to see where it pops up, if it pops up.
Zach.
All right.
Todd.
All right.
No, wait. Todd's next. Todd's next. I freaking messed this up.
My number 6 was my number 1 of 2023. It's Blackberry, directed by Matt Johnson. Yes, I have Matt Johnson and Ratman on my list. This is awesome. This is just a fantastic movie. Just a killer like whatever 2 hours, whatever it was, it probably less than that. I mean, it blows by. It's about the birth of the very first smartphone. Glenn Howerton's performance, I stand by, is the best performance by anybody in the last 5 years. And it's just a movie that is so perfectly put together, so relevant. It's funny, it's dramatic. It touches on like all these things about like how cannibalistic certain businesses are, especially the smartphone market, and how like if you're even stagnant for like a little bit, you'll be completely irrelevant soon after. And this movie portrays that so perfectly. Jay Baruchel, incredibly high war performance. Matt Johnson, I'll watch anything that he does. He has another one of his like ridiculous comedies coming out, Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie. But he's also got the one I'm most excited about, his Anthony Bourdain biopic starring Dominic Sessa. I cannot wait for that shit. Blackberry is number 6. And I honestly probably could have been higher, but I mean, it's a movie I've seen probably 7 or 8 times at this point, and I just absolutely love it.
Nice.
Yeah, of all the like brand origin stories we had, like there was a run there of like 18 months where we were getting one of those like every month.
Tetris. Nice.
Tetris, yeah. Pop-Tarts and Flamin' Hot Cheetos, and I don't even remember Air. Blackberry, I think, seemed to be the one that was the best, like rose to the top for the most part among all those.
Yeah, well, it took itself a little bit more seriously, and it wasn't.
Beanie Babies, thank you.
The Beanie Bubble, yeah.
YouTube commenter.
And go figure, Matt Johnson is a ridiculous guy, and he's the one that makes the best of these. Like, I'm so intrigued by him as a filmmaker now after Blackberry.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Zach, number 6.
All right, number 6. If I'm contractually bound to have the Dardenne brothers on my list, I'm also contractually obligated to have the director of my number 1 movie of all time on my list, the great Todd Field, the return, the renaissance, the rejuvenation. I still remember sitting in the theater that night in 22, watching the screen, seeing what I thought was maybe Kate Winslet, Kate Blanchett, name that Kate, face on the screen for like 2 minutes, although it felt like 2 hours, with the like smoke rising, and there's weird like voiceover talking about COVID and talking about, overcoming the struggles of our modern society. I'm like, what the hell is this? Oh, this is Tar. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Bill Walton would have had Tar his number 1 movie of the decade too. And just, a phenomenal performance by Kate Blanchett. Now, obviously, the world loves Everyone Everywhere All at Once. Of course, great movie. I'm sure it'll be very represented on our lists. But let's be honest, Kate Blanchett gave the best performance of the decade, arguably. I mean, she had to speak German. She had to conduct music. She had to sound intellectually sophisticated. She had to do that whole unbroken take where basically she had to, defend Bach. How dare he, father, sire, children. Anyway, this is the story of a great composer, a real life person like Laszlo Toth for sure. But the movie's so good that we might think that she's a real person. And it's just a great portrait. Actually, it has some overlap with The Brutalist, if you really think about it. It's about the creation of art. It's about ego. It's everything that Lester Bangs loves. It's about longing and all that sort of stuff. But it's also like a really fun mystery because you don't really know like what's happening to Lydia Tarr. There is a smear campaign, or so we think, out there about her, and so the movie is so resonant about cancel culture in the 2020s. It's also a great movie about music. It's also a great movie about obsession and passion and all the things that you do, Machiavellian things you do to get your way to the top. So I was not expecting this out of Todd Field. I was expecting a great movie, obviously, but Todd Field, just bravo to completely kind of reinvent himself and make a movie that totally unexpected. And I love Tar. I've watched it a few times since it came out, and it's a real banger. Just, you just want to hang out with Lydia Tarr and her screaming in her apartment and all that sort of shit. It's a great time for everybody. Great family fun.
Yeah, it's a great movie. Just missed my list. Just missed.
Yeah, also just missed your Pinot ballot for best director.
We're still talking about that?
People don't forget.
This is one I really need to revisit. I haven't seen this one since the theaters. So,
hey, that's where RRR went. That was the best director. There we go.
Yeah,
That's
that
where RRR
popped up. That's what popped up in its place for sure. All right, moving on to my number 6. And for my number 6, we're gonna go to, I think it's gonna be the first 2024 movie mentioned. I talked about
Adam had Challengers.
Oh, Adam had Challengers. Second 2024 movie mentioned. My number 6 is Nickel Boys. This was a movie that I remember going into it. All I was thinking about it was that it was the movie no one really knew anything about, that kind of got like this horrible Oscar campaign. And yet still somehow ended up with Best Picture. And I'm like, what is going on? How did this come out of nowhere and do it? And then I watched, I'm like, oh, because it's brilliant. That's how. Okay, well, that makes sense then. It's a brilliant movie. It tells the story of these boys in such a unique way, from a unique perspective. It feels like a gimmick to start with, but then once it settles in, you really like understand the reason why we have this unique perspective. And the ending is just devastating and brilliant, and bravo to Ramel Ross for making it. So number 6, Nickel Boys.
But his direction was not as impressive as James Mangold. Really hard to set up that camera looking at Timothy singing. This is a really directorial challenge. That's a bold pick, Terry. I like it. I didn't know what to do with 2024. You know, it's just these movies are too fresh. We've already talked about them. You know,
it's hard to not avoid the recency bias.
But you don't want to have egg on your face like you all did when you didn't put Uncut Gems in your top 10 of the 2010s.
Exactly.
Like, I mean,
that's exactly what I was
dumbest thing ever. And I had it number 5, and I was like, I feel like it's a little low, but we did just review it like several times.
Parasite 2 is up there as well. Both those two.
Parasite, the sequel, that was up there.
But see, this is the thing. This is just the mid-year. This is the mid-decade. So if you fuck up once, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. So
you're not having 2024 movies on your list, Zach?
We shall see. I still have 5 more picks, but I do know.
I could tell you what they are, though.
He has 5 more picks, and he has 5 more opportunities to pull an audible at the last minute. So
that's very true too. Yeah, good. Nice call though, remembering when we overlooked Uncut Gems. But then I put it number 10 in my top 10 of all time. So I think that made up for something, right?
Sort of. All right, my number 5.
Yeah,
right?
let's go. Let's keep going. Top 5 now. We're in the top 5. Adam, what do you got?
Speaking of 2024 movies, Anora, number 5.
Merlot.
Ooh, Merlot from Todd.
What's our Merlot count? Is it
3?
It's still less than last week.
It's 4. Terry or Todd and I are like hanging out though together with drinking it. 3 of them. Yeah.
So Adam has already flopped his number 1 and 2 of 2024.
I've already set that up though. I said Challengers and Anora on a given day. Good. I haven't flopped it in my top 10. I flopped it on this list because Anora is going to be a higher movie in the long run because it is the uncut gems of this decade. Uncut gems of this decade.
Yes.
All right. Well, Todd, let's keep it going.
Number 5 is The Worst Person in the World, directed by Joachim Trier, which was my number 1 of 2021. And it's about this woman. I think she's in her 30s. She's about 20 years too old for Zach, but she is like really. She makes a lot of mistakes. She has like 2 men in her life. She's going through a lot of stuff, and you relate to her even though you kind of don't understand her. She is one of the most fascinating characters of the last 5 years, played by Renata Rensva. And Joachim Trier, I mean, I think I just love his movies. He's got another one coming out this year. I think it's an English language movie, at least partially because Elle Fanning's in it, called Sentimental Value. That's my front runner for Best Picture for this year. Go read my predictions that I did a month ago.
Shameless plug.
Yes, The Worst Person in the World is a movie that I did not think I was going to like that much when we went into it, but I was just completely taken by it almost immediately. And I walked out, I was like, yeah, I think that was probably the best movie of that year. And I was the only one that thought that. Like you guys were significantly lower on it than I was, and but I still stand by it. I bought the movie. I've seen it a couple more times, and it still is just as great as it was the first time. So, The Worst Person in the World, that goes at number 5.
Well, my number 1 for you just fell off the board. Thanks.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
my number 1's still alive, but the reason that I liked The Worst Person in the World, didn't love it the way you did. The problem I have with it is I like the trailer more than the movie. The trailer is fantastic. It has that song in it. We get all the great things about the movie. We get the scene where everybody's in suspended movement. It's all like freeze frame and shit. The only thing we don't get is the animated cat's asshole, which I do miss. But I can't help but think if I can watch it in 2.5 minutes, why do I have to sit through the whole thing? I have a similar problem with Licorice Pizza, but it's a good pick though. And Trier could be the next Jacques Audiard Best Director winner at the Oscars. We'll see.
good stuff.
I like it.
All right, you're up.
Okay, my number 5 is The Father. Merlot still?
Okay. Terry?
Where's Terry? Did we lose
You're
him?
muted.
Yeah,
lost
there.
all three of
Merlot.
them.
Sorry, I muted my mic. I forgot. Merlot.
Terry, with the, it's that overstimulated, trying to manage 3 different streams here. You're helpless. You need a Paul Giamatti controlling the weather.
Oh, hey, it's my
Christoph
turn.
didn't do all that himself.
I will say The Father is the one I had to take off to make every 2 for every year. So that was going to be on all 4 lists.
Oh man, come on. Okay. All right. Well, my list, let's see here. Going to my list now. So number 5 on my list is my number 1 from 2024. It's Flow. I talked about this last week. The interesting thing about this though is as I was putting this together, like Adam flip-flopped his number 1 and number 2 of 2024. And I stand by Flow being my number 1 of 2024, but I feel like Nickel Boys should be higher on this list for some reason. I don't even know if that makes any sense, but I feel like you're thinking like an achievement for the decade. Nickel Boys feels like a bigger achievement, but Flow feels like a bigger achievement of the year.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah. So I probably could have flip-flopped these and put Nickel Boys 5 and Flow 6, but Flow, it's the best animated movie I've seen in the last 5 years. And it is, you just have to see it. There's nothing really quite like it. And, I said it all last week. Flow's my number 5.
Go with the flow.
Did you realize that Flow backwards is wolf? I just realized that for the first time. Mind blown. How come some movie hasn't dealt with that? I had not realized that. It seems like it could have been part of their marketing campaign.
I don't think there were any wolves in Flow, were there?
I don't think there are any wolves in it. Yeah.
Yeah, there were no dogs or wolves. I don't think.
There's dogs.
They're dogs. Yeah,
there's dogs.
Yeah.
Huh. There's a bunch of dogs, but I don't think there's a wolf.
Nice. All right. All right. Number 4 on my list. Todd and I are going to be talking about Killers of the Flower Moon. Here. This was an amazing experience going to the theater, watching this on the big screen, just me and the screen. It's a breathtaking film. Scorsese does a really great job telling this story, a little different than the actual novel, focusing on like Leo's relationship with Lily Gladstone's character here. Some amazing performances. We absolutely all love this movie as well. Gladstone giving one of the best performances of the decade here, I feel too. Leo is no slouch either, and De Niro also just chewing up the scenery here. This is one that it's 3 hours long. It doesn't feel like that at any time here. It needs a physical copy. I don't know how Criterion is not on that shit.
Because it's Apple. They've never done an Apple movie.
that is true. Good point. That's the unfortunate part about streaming movies, I guess, too. So Netflix also sometimes has a hard time getting them on physical. But yeah, Killers of the Flower Moon, just a amazing film from start to finish. So it's hard to leave off this list here. Another one that I also flip-flopped. I think this was number 2 on my 2023 list behind Godzilla. But I feel like it's one I have seen a lot more and I have appreciated a lot more, and it deserves to be higher up on the best of the decade list than the individual year list, I would say. Kind of like what...
yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I mean, Killers of the Flower Moon I had at number 7. It's a 3.5-hour movie but it's done by Scorsese, which is just a different way of telling the story and a different energy. Only Scorsese tells his story the way he tells it, and it's it blows by 3.5 hours. Doesn't matter. It is a fully encompassing story, but also very specific. It's not trying to do everything. It's trying to do something, and it expands on it in a way that only Scorsese can make it a singular movie. It's Leo does some of his best work. Like he only works like once every 3, 4, 5 years now, and if this is the type of stuff he's doing, then I'm totally okay with it. I know he's got another movie with Scorsese planned as their next movie called The Wager. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that's going to be probably everyone's number 1 anticipated movie of that year. It's also De Niro's best performance since like the early 90s. It's a fantastic movie, and it does suck. It does have physical media, but I mean, Apple TV is not that expensive. You can still watch it there. It's an amazing movie. It was my number 2 of 2023.
Nice, yeah, great call.
All right, yeah, I have it. It's in my top 25, probably a little too low in my top 25. Ooh, we have a commenter from IS71, Killers of the Flower Moon. It was so boring.
Who's the jersey in their little picture?
I don't know.
It's a hockey Red Wings.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's a Red Wings something.
Oh.
All right.
I don't agree. It was not boring. So
obviously,
tweets their own. Oh, Dylan Larkin.
Dylan Larkin.
Okay. Nice.
The more you know.
You're wrong, Dylan.
But also right at the same time. No. Anyway, okay, who's up now? Zach's up. Okay.
Interesting perspective.
Todd.
No, Todd's up.
Number 4 is.
Hold on a
Honora.
second. I messed up here.
Honora is number 4.
We already know it's number 4 now. Yeah.
Yes, and we just talked about it a bunch last week. It's Sean Baker making a movie that does not feel exactly like a Sean Baker movie. In some ways it does, but it also feels like something you could pretty much give to anybody, and you know that they'll be entertained by it because the characters and the dynamics and how the story's told is just so fresh and so interesting, and the characters and the performances are great. I mean, Honora it's a movie I could turn on basically at any time, and I would have a good time watching it. Even though, the subject matter doesn't exactly lend to that, but it still works because the movie is just put together so perfectly.
All right.
Nice. So, also
Adam,
this
you
decade...
had this too, yeah. Oh, go ahead, Zach.
Oh, no, sorry. Go, Adam. I'm sorry. I forgot.
Yeah, I feel like this movie is going to be, like I said, the uncut gems of this decade here, and it's one that, even though I have it technically at number 2 on the 2024 list, I think this one is going to, over time, is going to just be more of a podcast favorite. I really like Baker's films as well, Tangerine and Florida Project being some really good ones. So
Red Rocket, don't forget Red Rocket.
Oh, Red Rocket, got to talk about Red Rocket for sure too. But yeah, all really good movies. I think this is like him on shooting in all cylinders, and it's builds that tension really slowly, like Cassie said in the comments there. I had a blast watching this. It's one of the best comedies of the year as well. So it's pretty dang funny as well. We had another comment. All right. I feel like it could have cut down a lot. Also, it wasn't a type of movie that okay. I think he was talking about the other film.
Oh, Killers of the Flower Moon, going back to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So All right.
Okay. So now we are going to Zach for his number 4.
Todd's comment or Zach's comment.
Well, I think we need to address the elephant in the room.
Plays Todd.
I think we need to address the elephant in the room. Todd, how do you feel about the recasting of the Almost Sideways podcast? I think we now have to say Yuri Borisov wins. It's the clear recasting, right?
No, it's NoHo Hank.
No, but
it is still
Yuri
NoHo
is a stick man, though. No, Hank's an idiot. Is that? It's still Borat. Damn it, Adam. It's still Borat.
It's never gonna not be Borat.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll take it though.
All right.
Give
Zach,
him the
number
stick
4.
man prowess of Yuri. Okay. Anyway, keep it motion. Keep pushing.
All right. Number 4 for me is my number 1 of 2020. Never, rarely, sometimes, always. Directed by Eliza Hittman. Not her first movie. Remember seeing the trailer for this movie and thinking, yeah, I can just go to the theater and see it. And that didn't happen. Saw it streaming in June of that year. But it was a great experience even watching it at home. Although sadly, it's only available on DVD. They need to put out the Blu-ray version of it, but I still own it. That gives me some credibility. Great movie about a pair of cousins played by Sidney Flanigan and Talia Ryder, and their journey from Pennsylvania to New York City as one of them has an unexpected pregnancy, and they are both underage, and so they do not have parental consent. So they have to go to a state that permits abortions to be done even without parental consent. And the movie is, of course, very timely in this era where women's rights are being stripped away systematically. But it's also a really personal and powerful humanistic story with great performances. I think Todd may have mentioned that, he's never quite seen a movie that captures the New York City bus transit depot in quite the same way. I would agree with that. A lot of the movie takes place with the characters kind of waiting around in parts of New York City that you don't always get to see on film. And the movie's really powerful and really sad and shocking, but it's also a movie in some ways about hope and about the power of friendship and relying on other people. And I think in the end, it does offer a sort of maybe encouraging message about our future. But it's still a movie that I think needs to be reckoned with. People need to see it and check it out. It's, and at least Talia Ryder's been in a few movies since this movie came out. But I loved it. And it's a really powerful, gripping movie. And hopefully Eliza Hittman makes some more movies because it's really good. I was watching it today. Great opening scene of Sidney Flanigan playing guitar. Or excuse me, it's more like, I guess, banjo at a talent show. Nice way to open your movie, Eliza Hittman. Very, very nicely done.
Nice.
All right.
Yeah, well, I think you guys probably pegged that as my number 1 movie, but
yeah, that was my pick for your number 1.
No, I knew Zach's number 1 already. It's not. I mean, I did not have that. I wasn't considering never, really, sometimes, always.
No, mine's still on the board. Still,
I think Adam's got knocked off for me. No. I predicted Godzilla for Adam, but at least I get like a half point because it made his list.
All of mine are still alive, but I think I might miss Adam's top 10 completely, like I did last week.
I had worst person in the world pegged for Todd's number 1. So
yeah, worst person.
Oh, really?
I mean, just looking at your number 1s, I was like, that felt like it was the most logical, but I guess I was wrong, and we'll see where it goes.
I know which one Todd thinks it's my number 1 is, but the website isn't updated.
Just all right.
It wasn't a number 1 of the
your
year.
problem.
Oh, it wasn't. Okay, then there we go. Then perfect.
Okay, well, let's move on to my number 4. So my number 4 is going back to 2020. This is a movie that made my top 100 when we did our top 100s in July of 2021. It is Sound of Metal. Merlot. There's a Merlot. Okay. I had to get just a little bit out for it. All right.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. We will discuss later then.
It's a good pick.
Correct. All right. Number 3 now. Number 3.
Okay.
My number 1 of 2021, Mass.
That's what I had pegged as your number 1.
Yeah, Mass is. I've only seen this the one time, but it has such it has the saying power of just four people in a room having a conversation about what events that happened in their lives about a mass shooting and something that is kind of has happened way too many times to count, and but powerful performance is a powerful kind of message, and the entire film just grips you from the start to the finish, and you can kind of see everybody's perspective and everybody's who you think is who you side with the most as well. And I think I need to rewatch this one for sure, but it's one that I knew was the top 5 of the decade. It's it's the only 2021 movie I have on this list. But it's definitely deserving to be on a top 10 of the decade. It's a very powerful movie, and Mass is number 3 for me.
Yeah, it's a movie you only need to see once, I feel like, because it's just such a powerful conversation that they have in that, and it's all just set in that one room, that one conversation, and it is amazing. It is an amazing movie. It was a 4-star movie. It was one of the 60 whatever I said.
Now, Adam, when you went into the movie knowing that it took place in a church, did you think it was about Mass?
Yeah, maybe. No, I knew what it was about before.
Well, let's move on to Todd's number 3.
Todd.
Okay, well, so on this list, it's like with 2024, like those lists are set. Like you kind of have to just pick off your 1 and 2. Like this is going on the list. But these other years, I mean, it's been a little bit since 2020. And what movies do you return to the most? Which movies do you have never really left your memory? My number 3 is The King of Staten Island. The Judd Apatow movie. I've seen this movie a lot. It is a movie that speaks to me. And I mean, yeah, I could see some of myself in Scott Carlin, the Pete Davidson character, who is Pete Davidson is astonishing in this movie, but it's he's sort of a slacker. It's sort of also about his life, and it is Judd Apatow giving room for his star to write and star in the movie and tell the story that he wants to do, but give it like the weight that Judd Apatow is able to do when he's not making the bubble. But The King of Staten Island is a movie that is endlessly watchable. The characters are all sort of unlikable, but also kind of perfect, and you'd love to hang out with them. I'm actually kind of stunned that I have it this high, but at the same time, it's a movie that I could turn on now, I could turn it on tomorrow, I could turn it on at any point, and I will have a total blast watching all 140 minutes of it or however long it is, because it is something else. And I remember at the time when we reviewed it, I think we had to do like a full price rental or something, and it was the only time I ever did that, and I'm glad I did. It's a terrific movie, and Judd Apatow, it's probably his masterpiece.
Yeah, we didn't review this one until much later because I didn't rent it. I remember. Oh, okay. I think you assigned it to me at one point.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But because I just didn't get to it. It's a really good movie, and yeah, I think I remember the biggest thing I took from it was Pete Davidson is just reminds me of you. Like just his essence in this movie had a lot of you in it. And so it's interesting that you're finally coming around to the fact that you're identifying with that character. And that's why you love the movie so much.
Yeah, well, it's yeah, his demeanor and how he interacts with people, it definitely reminds me of myself.
Nice. We do have another comment here too.
Apatow's next movie is called Cola Wars, which is about the rivalry between Coke and Pepsi in the 1980s. That's going to be bizarre.
Oh, that'll be interesting. All right, pop that comment back up there. All right. Bye for the Hobbit, who's been with us like this whole time. Thank you for watching with us. Best movie of the 2020s is Hundreds of Beavers. Says this is 2022. It's a 2024 movie, not 2022 movie.
I haven't watched it. It came out here in 2024. Yeah.
Oh, that must be it. Yeah. Yeah, just came out here this last year. Todd, you've seen it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was not a fan. I thought it seemed like it was way longer than Killers of the Flower Moon, but you know.
I it's a lot
But
of
that was
praise
the other
about it.
guy. Never mind. I shouldn't talk shit to that guy. It is 71 is the culprit.
That's
But
true.
yeah,
That's true.
I wasn't a big fan of Hundreds of Beavers. I mean, I couldn't get on this wavelength, but I get why people like it.
Yeah, a lot of people love that movie too. So, all right.
So Todd, I can't remember. Did you put the bubble in your bottom 5? Do you have Apatow
No.
mention? Okay, where does the bubble rank on your bottom movies? I mean, you probably have all 8,000 of them ranked at this point. So where does the bubble rank, and how close did we get to a bottom 3 and top 3 by the same director? Because that would have been impressive.
It was pretty close. I mean, the bubble is like a 1-star or lower movie for me. So
if we were to do a consensus,
I didn't even think
the
about
bubble
it.
is there. Yeah.
I didn't even think about that, but yeah, I like that. That is an interesting thought.
And does that prove once and for all that Maude is the more talented sister than Iris? I think that settles that debate, right?
Yeah.
None of us have seen One of Them Days yet, so
that's true. That's fair.
We need to watch that to decide for sure.
I watched it.
Oh, Todd watched it. How was it, Todd?
Oh, I mean, it's super fun. Her character is so weird, but yeah, I mean, she's still great in that.
Nice.
If you didn't have the money this week, you're not going to have it next week or next month. Cat Williams. Okay. All right.
All right, Zach, number 3.
All right, number 3, Todd can prepare to get ready to make fun of me. It is The Starling Girl, first-time feature film made by Laurel Parmet, my number 2 of 2023. Thank you, Terry and Cassie. I do like the physical media. It is all dramatically disappearing. You know, you go to your local Barnes & Noble to go find some Criterions. It's on one paltry little shelf, but I digress. The Starling Girl, a great movie set in Kentucky about a teenage girl played by an actress who maybe is a little bit older than a teenage girl, Eliza Scanlon, but she's very good in the movie. And Lewis Pullman is her love interest, who also happens to be the youth pastor at her church. And it's kind of about her pushing up against the fundamentalism of her community. And as she develops into kind of a sexually charged relationship and realizes that there's much more to the world than just this kind of insular environment that she's grown up in. Really great movie about the fundamentalism of Christianity, but also like the routine of small town and how, you know, as a teenager, you're struggling to break away. Like, I think it's like this decade's version of like The Last Picture Show. You know, it's also got some explosive sexuality in it, like The Last Picture Show. And I think it's just a really accurate depiction of that sort of life. And it's also just great performances. Eliza Scanlon, who's an actress, I believe, from New Zealand, just nails the accent in it. And a second appearance on our top 10 so far of Lewis Pullman, who I guess is becoming one of the 2020's best actors. But this is a movie I've returned to several times. It's a great watch. It's a great sort of just portrait of these characters that are, kind of religiously deranged, but that doesn't entirely mean they're uninteresting. Her dad's got some issues going on with addiction. He's kind of like, what movie is he in? He probably should have been in Sound of Metal, but he's very good in the movie, and the mom's great. And it's just a really fun movie to hang out with these people in Kentucky, and you know, to avoid alcohol and try to abstain. And it's like a perfect fun adventure. So I really dig this movie, and Laurel Parmet makes some more movies. She's awesome.
Yeah, Pinot nominated performances there too. That's a good movie.
Well, did it make the Best Picture lineup? I think it did make the Best Picture lineup last year. I think.
I mean, it
there
depends.
was only a way we could look this up.
You did, you're the whole math person here. How much can one person really have an impact on the rest of our collective list? Because I was the only one that really loved this movie. But that's okay. Yeah, get it into bookstores. That's what I say. Get it into bookstores. Let the public decide.
It came in last in the 10, but it was 10th. It did make the Best Picture lineup last year. So
I supported it.
It was there.
I nominated Lewis Pullman too there, bud. I tried.
Yeah.
Also, really good music in that movie by a band called Lord Huron, which is then they're going on tour this year. And I'm going to go see them later this year. I love their music. They got this kind of bluegrass, folky sort of songs, and that I actually listened to the soundtrack from that movie a lot on my phone. So just all around great movie.
All right, nice,
awesome. All right, it's to me. Well, it's to me. It's finally time to have the conversation. My number 3 is a father. This was one that
not on Zach's
possibly
list.
He's already said
it.
Okay.
5.
This is, I will say, this might be one of the most memorable movie-going experiences of the last 5 years for me, because The Father is the first movie I went to in the theaters post-COVID. I remember it broke the dry spell. I went there in my mask. I was ready to go. I had to go to a theater I don't normally go to even to see it because it wasn't playing very many places. And it just blows you away just from the start. And the way it is able to portray this picture of dementia and an older man starting to lose his faculties, and does it in a way that's almost like mementos it, because it turns it into like you're right with him, not knowing what is going on. It is possibly some of the best production design of the decade so far, in just the subtlety of it. I mean, a movie this subtle getting nominated for production design is crazy, but it deserved it because everything is just slightly off, so that when you look at it with the Anthony Hopkins character, you're saying, wait, that's not exactly how it looked before. What changed? And you're doing it with them, and then the wrong person walks in the room, and then you're really confused, just like he is. I mean, this is one where I hadn't seen it since the theaters. I rewatched it last night, showed it to my wife for the first time, and it's impossible to not be instantly engaged by it, because it tells such a human story. And Anthony Hopkins, at 83 years old, gives like maybe his best performance. I mean, he was Hannibal Lecter. This might be his best performance because it's just that good. It's amazing. And then Olivia Colman on top of it. You throw Olivia Colman in there, you know it's going to be an amazing movie as well. Yeah, I've got it at number 3. A bunch of people have it all over the place. Let's keep talking about it.
I'll go next because I have this one at 6. Yeah, I have this at 6, so I'll go next. Yeah, this is a great film. Hopkins, given that amazing performance, just completely you get sucked into it, and you feel, and you're questioning what's actually going on along with the main character here. And Coleman is awesome, and you're questioning everything. You've pretty much summed it up quite a bit. I didn't get to see this didn't see this in theater, but I was able to have this at home and be able to watch it and just completely get like floored by this. I think I watched this after the top 10 of that year came out, so it wasn't on my original list if I remember correctly. But it immediately like skyrocketed to the top. It was a very memorable film with amazing performances and a highlight at the Oscars that we will not forget for a while.
Anthony Hopkins, not here. Good night. Yeah. Yeah. This also made my top 100 of when we did that too. I had 2 2020 movies on there. It was Sound of Metal. Or no, 3. I had 3 on there. But yeah, we'll talk about that. Zach,
yeah,
you had this on your list.
I think The Father was also in my top 100 too. Yeah, just kind of reiterating a lot of what Terry said. It was also my first movie back after COVID. Unforgettable experience. I saw it in like my town's dingy art house theater, and I was the only one there, and it just it felt kind of like his apartment in some ways. It felt very isolated. I went back and rewatched part of it too. I like the scene where he is talking to Imogen Poots, who's like his new house or his new caretaker, and he's like telling her that he's a dancer and that he's basically hitting on her. You could tell that Anthony Hopkins is a little bit of a stick man in this movie, quietly. The geriatric stick man is a nice combo for him. And then it like flips a switch, and then he's all like, I don't need a housekeeper, fuck you. And that scene sort of it's not like the most like glamorous scene. It's not his Oscar clip, but like that scene shows just the dementia seeping in, not so much in him sounding incoherent, but having this like sudden flash of like a mood swing, which is really cool. And then Olivia Colman's like, yeah, this happens. Or actually Imogen Poots kind of says, yeah, this is typical, but Olivia Colman has a really hard time dealing with it. Great scene. I can't help but think I want to give a little bit of a shout out to the Outrun, the Saoirse Ronan movie from earlier this year. We talked about the movie. I think we liked it. Basically, it was trying to do what The Father did, but instead of an 83-year-old man with dementia, it was like a 25-year-old woman with alcoholism. But I give props to that movie because the reason it didn't work, it just kind of reminded me of The Father and how much better The Father did that. But it's a cool concept for a movie, and I think directors should still be using it. But this is now the movie that did the best version of that thing that it did. So obviously, great movie, and hard to extract it from the experience of watching it coming out of COVID for sure.
Nice.
Todd, you said it barely missed your list.
Yeah, that's in my next 5. I had a similar experience, although I went to a few movies like during COVID also, so I didn't really have that experience of going out. But I did have to go to a theater I definitely don't go to. But it was one of those things where you were just immediately transported and you're taken by that movie. And yeah, Hopkins gives one of the great performances of his career, and I don't know anyone else that could have played it like that. I mean, and I did like The Son as well. Nobody else did. Nobody else saw it on this podcast, I don't think.
Yeah, I haven't seen The Son yet. I need to see it.
Great Dardenne Brothers movie too.
Nice. Real quick, we got another comment from Cassie. If you're going to order from a bookstore, this is a great place to order from. Make sure to pick your local bookstore to support them at bookshop.org. Not affiliated with our podcast, but Cassie might see some royalties. Who knows?
It should be. I think it is now. We are unofficially sponsored by Ridge Walker Brewing and bookshop.org. I like it.
And Chiefs Cup and Maker's Mark.
And a Chiefs Cup and Maker's Mark. Dry whiskey January.
Would Cassie include that movie about the Guernsey literary shop, like the 20-word title that in the potato farm or whatever?
Oh, the Potato Peel Pie Society.
Yeah, that would make her
Guernsey Literary Potato Peel Pie Society. Yeah,
nice.
I doubt it would make her list, but she did watch it.
Did you guys not get your wife's best of the decade so far list?
No, did you?
Did not.
No,
I did not.
Some things are just too
interesting.
Too degenerate.
Too degenerate, exactly.
Okay.
All right, well, let's move on. Number 2 time, Adam.
All right, number 2 is the first time I believe one of us have seen a movie on this list with somebody else. So we are going to talk about Babylon.
I got Adam's right. Yes.
Oh.
That was a great stab.
Babylon. Well, yeah, there we go. So keep going. Okay,
that is a great stab.
Directed by Damien Chazelle. This is a fantastic movie. Like, this is one that's very just high octane, just great performances. I know at our first Pinos, we gave it quite a bit of love there as well. And having that experience, I saw it with Terry and Cassie. It was a lot of fun. Just laughing at the pure craziness. The first 45 minutes at that party is just degenerate, but so much fun, and just you can't take your eyes off it. It's an amazing score. I think that's a big theme on my list. You have to have a great score to be on this list, and that definitely is one of the best of the decade as well. Babylon is one that I've watched a couple times now as well, and it brings a smile on my face. It's a lot of fun. So Babylon is probably the most fun I've had watching it, other than Top Gun Maverick and Babylon, probably the most fun you'll have at the theater. So on this list, so Babylon number 2.
That's a great call. Of all the movies, like this one has stuck with me more than most. I need to move it up my list. This has got to be a 4-star movie in my top 10 if I don't have it in my top 10 already from that year. What was it, 2022?
Yeah.
I don't think I do, which is a crime. This movie's amazing. Yeah, you're right. The score is so good.
Gary.
What?
I don't think it was that good. I was like a mid-level 3 stars. It's like a really long, indulgent kind of nonsense, but
it is. But I don't know. It's stuck with me. It was one that when I first saw it. Oh, Adam removed Todd from the stream.
Yeah.
When I first saw it, it was like you didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And now Cassie is saying, not all I hear now in my head are the trumpet solos that are amazing. Yeah, you don't know what to do with it at first, and then once you really settle into it, like I've gone back and revisited this movie more than most. Oh, but Byford the Hobbit says that Todd is so right about Babylon, so there's that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Here's to you. Cheers.
of like almost any movie from the last 5 years. Like this is like in the top 5 of movies that I have that I've revisited. Oh, and now Zach is commenting while also being here. Elephant shit for MVP of the decade. Well, I mean, can't really argue with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's a rewatchable movie. I love Babylon. I'm glad you have it this high.
Yeah.
So I originally had Babylon in my top 10 of the decade because I too am a fan of it. I took it off my list because I think The Brutalist is better than Babylon, but I wasn't ready to put The Brutalist on my top 10 quite yet. So I can't quite do it, but I understand the spirit behind it, and it is incredibly rewatchable. I said earlier I had a list of a movie about a 3-minute clip that gets put on repeat. Margot Robbie going to college on repeat, what feels like 50 times, is just hugely entertaining. And just a reminder that the silent movies were always the best ones.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. That's Babylon.
Babylon represented well at the Pinots. What was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It had 8 Pinot nominations. No wins, but 8 nominations for picture, actress, supporting actor, director, original screenplay, minor character, movie death, and best scene.
Spoiler alert.
Hello College. Well, they didn't say what the movie death was. Spoiler alert, it was a sound technician stuck in the furnace booth.
Or the guy that got shot on the field with all the battle shit. Because
there's that too.
So good. Anyway.
Well, Todd hated it, and it's his turn, so we can get off the topic now. Todd, what's your number 2?
We're on number 2. Change the slide.
Oh yeah.
There we go.
Number 2. My number 2 is Daddy-O, which was my number 1 of last year.
Wow. It's a good one.
Christy Hall, and she has the only thing she has in development is she wrote another book adaptation starring Blake Lively, so she's going down that lane again.
Is it
but
the
no directing?
It Ends With Us?
No, it's a different author. But I don't know. I mean, Daddy-O, I mean, I guess similar to Mass, like these are my kind of movies. Like you have a very limited set with actors just like living in their characters and playing off of each other. It's an amazing movie, a movie that should not work as well as it does, but it's because Dakota Johnson and Sean Penn are so good, and the movie is so sharp. Yeah, and Daddy-O, visually it looks way better than it should. Also, I mean, the movie is set in a car, and it looks great. Daddy-O's number 2. I mean, if you want more, go back and listen to our several reviews of it throughout the weeks and my top 10 last week. It's a phenomenal movie and one that I will revisit for a long time.
And will probably be talked about in 2 weeks as well, several times.
Probably, yes.
Oh yeah, when we get to the Pinots,
we can hope.
I have
think
not had
Christy
a chance
Hall,
to revisit this yet.
Christy Hall is attached. I'm looking at IMDb. She's attached to write the sequel to the spinoff of Adam Sandler in a movie called Big Daddy-O. So 30 years later, they're in a cab and they're trying to get back home, but Sean Penn just needs to take a piss.
What's it with you just playing with words today? Like
It's Frankenstein.
A Chamalay,
Okay,
a Chamalay.
I also want to point out.
Still can't say his name.
I was.
So Todd's got the movie with two characters talking at night in a self-contained room. Terry's got Top Gun Maverick. Adam's got the Godzilla movie, and I got the Dardenne Brothers movie. I think we need to get a little bit less predictable.
All right.
I mean,
let's.
Yeah, you started off, Zach. What's your number 2?
Okay.
I mean, these are predictable in essence anyway, because like we've already discussed these movies several times in the last 5 years, so it's
true.
We kind of know what
That's
we're
true.
going to talk about.
Well, speaking of predictable, I know what Todd's number 1 is now, so I get a point for that. My number 2 is Past Lives, my number 1 movie of 2023.
I got Zach's right. I got Terry's right
my.
too. I'm almost positive. I think I nailed this shit. Sorry, go for it, Zach.
Thank you. It is also a directorial debut, like my number 3 film. And I saw it around the same time as my number 3 film. And it's the movie that A24 didn't really do a great job of pushing at the Oscars. They should have pulled in Everything Everywhere All at Once, because this is a movie that should have won a lot of Oscars. Fortunately, though, it announces a great future career in Celine Song. We'll see what she's up to next. Maybe don't have a movie written by her husband, but that's just career advice. Anyway, Past Lives, great movie. We've got incredible performances from Greta Lee and Tae Yoo. They are childhood sweethearts, kind of ish, back in Korea, and then they meet 20 years later in New York City. She's now an aspiring playwright who's married to John Magaro, and he is still very much in love with her. Just a sweet movie that touches on the transcendence of life. There's a bit about art. There's a little bit of spirituality in the movie. Some great conversations. It's like, I applaud, by the way, Todd's pick of Daddy-O. It is a cool movie. Past Lives in a similar, sort of similar way, is very much about two people who are talking a lot of the movie, and it's great conversations, and it makes you kind of examine your own life to some degree or another, and it probably has one of the most devastating endings of any movie of the 2020s so far. So I love this movie immediately when I saw it. It still resonates, only 18 months later or whatever. It's great. It's a great movie, great performances. It's impossible to not like it. I don't think anyone gave that movie thumbs down. It's like 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, right? I mean, who couldn't like it? I think I'm the only one here.
Zach movie ever made. You got to see it.
It is a very Zach movie. So number 2, Past Lives.
That's a good pick. And yeah, it is a very Zach movie, and that was one I was thinking of predicting for you as your number 1. It probably. Yeah, I had that pegged as probably about falling at number 2. All right. Is it to me? It's to me. All right. Well, you all picked the same movie to be my number 1, and it's my number 2.
I'm gonna pull an auto.
Top Gun Maverick is my number 2.
Damn,
this is. I know. You all said it. It is like the most just pure entertainment you could possibly have at the movies. This is a movie where I felt like I could go to the movie theater like every day and watch this movie as long as it was in theaters, because it's that great of an experience in the theaters. It's worth seeing in the theaters. And I saw this 2 or 3 times in the theaters with different people, and it was worth it every single time. I mean, and not to mention, like, Tom Cruise saved movie theaters with this movie too. Like, this is post-COVID, everyone's coming back, not sure what to do, and then Top Gun Maverick drops. Nobody hates this movie. Like, everybody loves this movie, and it is just a pure spectacle. It's everything you want out of a blockbuster. It's everything you want out of a movie.
Tom Cruise, baby.
It's what else can you say? It's Top Gun Maverick. Top Gun was in my top 100 when we did that exercise 4 years ago, and now Top Gun Maverick. I mean, God help us. Top Gun Maverick is now above two movies I had in my top 100 4 years ago. It might end up being in my top 100 next time we do this, whenever we decide that's going to be. It's my number 2, like most entertaining moment at the theaters in the last 5 years. And yes, Cassie says even our kids love it, which they do, because both sets of grandparents begged for the day they could show the kids Top Gun Maverick. Both sides were like, when can we watch Top Gun Maverick?
Seen the original?
Children? No, well, maybe. I think at one point they did before they really knew what they were watching. They've seen the original, but they've both seen Top Gun Maverick.
They haven't lost.
And they watched it like almost every time they go to each set of grandparents' houses, because they're obsessed with that movie. So
nice.
It's Top Gun Maverick. Number 2 on my list. It popped up on a bunch of other lists too. Who's talking?
Yeah, I'll talk first. Yeah, Top Gun Maverick. It's even better on an airplane. No, I don't know about that. It's great, man.
That should be the tagline.
Miles Teller getting that Pinot nom, that was awesome. I'm glad I got that to happen. But no, it's a fantastic movie. Like I've seen it. Definitely one of the most watched movies on my top 10 of the decade. I think I have it too low, honestly. Like it's a fantastic film. Like it's definitely one of the best action movies of the last 10 years. Let's say 10 years. It's and way better than it had any right to be. Like everybody thought this was going to be suck. I know I did, and it just blew my socks off. So Tom Cruise saved cinema.
Yeah, that was my number 9, and it's a movie I saw multiple times in the theaters. It is a movie that you could turn on at any point and be entertained by. All these legacy sequels have had varying degrees of success. Like obviously, like Mad Max in 2015 was like a great one, but this was like one that played on the original so much, but also didn't like reduce itself to the goofiness of the original. It played itself seriously, and it is just, I mean, it's movie-going bliss. There's nothing I would change about this movie. It is so much fun. Oscar nominee Monica Barbaro, and nominee Lewis Pullman. And the Val Kilmer scenes are heartbreaking. Everything about this movie just works, and it's Joseph Kosinski, a director who really did not have a great track record before this. He makes maybe the most watchable movie of the last 20 years. Top Gun Maverick. It's a great movie.
Yeah, that was the one point I was going to add too. Is it is the most watchable and rewatchable movie of the last 5 years, and to go the last 20, I wouldn't necessarily argue with that, because it is like an ultimate background noise movie, but also just endlessly entertaining. Dune. All right, deferred to Hobbit, or Byford to Hobbit. I messed that up. Am I crazy? Dune is missing on these lists. It is missing. I mean, I like Dune. I'm not a huge Dune person though, so
we're not really Dune people.
I'm the highest on Dune. I'm the highest on Dune on the podcast, and I'll mention it in the next little bit.
I think I gave both of them 3.5 stars.
No.
Honorable mentions.
Honorable mentions. Yeah. All right. So, well, now we are to the number ones. That's all we got left, and we're going to Adam.
Well, first
go ahead, Zach.
Breaking news from Woj Joseph Kosinski and Luka Doncic announcing a sequel, Top Gun Laker, starring Luka as the pilot. Tom Cruise playing Jerry Buss. I don't know how this one sounds.
Top Gun Laker, a new legacy.
Yeah.
I have no idea what Terry's number 1 is now. Like, he has 2 number 1s of his year.
I know
that
what his
haven't
number
been mentioned
1
yet. He has 2 number 1s that haven't been mentioned yet.
It has to be.
This is a true statement.
Mathematical option.
Wait, what? Really?
And he has one between. He had his number 2, which also his number 3 of that year is also on this list, and he has number 2 hasn't been said either. So I have no idea what the hell he's doing. I got Zach and Adam nailed though. So
yeah, you do.
Adam,
you really do. Adam, tell us about your number 1, which we all know what it is now. because
right.
you already reload it.
Yeah.
Well, all right. So my number one is a film that I watched on a Brazilian torrent site. I'm gonna.
Yes.
I'm.
Thank you,
Todd,
Adam.
where's that prop bet, man? You had it for the last one.
My number one is I'm still here. No. There we go. Yeah, The Sound of Metal, my most watched movie of this last decade. Riz Ahmed, Paul Raci. It's a fantastic film. It should be studied on how to do proper sound mixing and sound design. It's a fascinating story of this drummer who loses his hearing and has to deal with the loss of his hearing and the struggle of trying to find his place and what he does next, and his relationship with Olivia Cook, I believe. Yep. Just a fantastic film from start to finish. The ending sequence is probably one of the best scenes of the last decade too. Just him sitting in silence and just at peace with his decision there. And yeah, Sound of Metal. When I put the list together, when I was thinking about the list, I'm like, that's got to be number one there. So Sound of Metal, easily my favorite film of the 2020s
So far.
I don't think.
Yeah,
I don't know.
had
This is a
this-
top 100 movie too. Yeah.
I had this. Where did I have this? I had this number 4 on my list. And yeah, just like you said, this movie, it's a devastating movie. Looking at no, we're not talking about Top Gun Maverick anymore. Sorry. Yeah, it's this devastating movie looking at someone who loses the one thing that matters most to him, and that's his hearing, as being like this rock drummer, and battling through that. Riz Ahmed gives an amazing performance. Paul Raci puts him on the map, and then he goes and does Sing Sing 2, which I think just expands the legacy of Sound of Metal. Like I said, this was one of 2 movies from the 2020s when we did our top 100s in the summer of 2021 that popped up on my top 100, because this movie just feels that important. Now I haven't revisited this one. This was one I did not get to do a rewatch of. I think this is the only movie on my top 10 that I've only seen once. Maybe The Rescue. I might have only seen The Rescue once, and the 2024 movies, obviously. But it just sticks with you. You can't lose this one. And there are images and moments and sounds that you hear in this movie that you can never unhear. And it's just a breathtaking film that had to be up here on this list high if I was going to make this list. So
Yeah,
well
and none
done,
of us saw it
Adam.
in a theater. If we did, I mean, and this is a movie that begs to be seen in a theater, and we watched it on TV, and we were still just so transported by the sound design and the editing and everything about how the movie is put together by a first-time filmmaker. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. And Sing Sing 2, there's a sequel?
Yeah, that's what I heard. That's what I heard too. Sing Sing 2.
Thanks. All right.
So the animated
Todd,
movie.
number 1.
But there are no Banshees in Inisherin.
Oh,
But there are. The Banshees of Inisherin is my number 1. A Martin McDonagh film, a Pinot favorite, Colin Farrell, Barry Keoghan, Brendan Gleeson, and Kerry Condon, about a guy who decides to end his friendship with his best friend and doesn't really tell him why. And then he says, if you come near him, I'm going to start cutting my fingers off. It's a very simple story, a very simple set movie, and characters that are so rich and so interesting, performances that will knock your socks off, but in ways that are subtle, but also with so much feeling and humanity that every time I've seen it probably 3 or 4 times. It'll blow you away. Even just watching the trailer, I get emotional watching it again, because there's no movie in the last 5 years hit me the way Banshees did. I think it's probably one of the 15 greatest movies ever made. It's it is one of the landmark movie-going experiences of my life was watching Banshees of Inisherin. Yeah, that's number 1 of the decade so far.
wow.
That's high praise.
High praise.
That's high praise.
By4 is back here. The Hobbit.
Hey, I win. Thank you.
I win.
B plus.
Well, there you go. There you go.
Nobody
you
else
haven't
had
even
the
heard the
Banshees
rest of
on
the
their list.
lists yet, so
That's sad
No one else
that
had
you guys weren't
Banshees.
as high on Banshees as I was.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the best 3-star movies. Not on my list. Yeah.
I think I have it at 4 stars. It just didn't get there. It just didn't.
Banshees is number 35 of 22, but it is a 3-star
Of the
movie.
decade?
No, of 22. Definitely not.
Whatever. Well, Martin
It
McDonagh
was
has
my
another
number 3
movie
of 22.
right now coming out. I guess it's planned at least with Sam Rockwell, Christopher Walken, John Malkovich, and Oscar Isaac. Like, just give me that already. This is gonna be a podcast favorite with that cast.
7 Psychopaths 2. Yes.
Todd, were you more traumatized by Brandon Gleeson sitting in the burning house, or when they announced Jamie Lee Curtis beating Carrie Condon at the Oscars? What was the more traumatic moment of the decade for you?
I was there with Todd, the Jamie Lee Curtis one. He was.
I mean,
remember
that whole
the
Oscars was
YouTube
traumatic.
Live.
I know you said I looked like I don't know, my sweat uniform you said was, I forget what it was, like Mark Wahlberg or something. Can't remember what you said.
Yeah.
That was a bad Oscars, but I mean everything about Banshees just kills me. So I'll go with that.
Nice.
Zach's turn, number 1.
All right. Well, my number 1 is also an Irish movie from 2022.
Oh, yeah.
You got wrong Irish movie, you hateful bitch. It is The Quiet Girl, which apparently Terry knew. Yes, The Quiet Girl, film debut of Colm Buried. And I want to say that I saw my numbers 1 through 3 all within like 1 3-month timeline, and they were all first-time filmmakers. So to me, it just kind of those 3 really stand out. It was a great time, I guess, to watch movies. I saw it on St. Patrick's Day, 23. Perfect time to see that movie. It is about a quiet girl named Kat, and she is living with a pretty negligent family, and she's sent to some distant relatives who actually show her like love and support for the first time in her life. And then we learn a little bit of a backstory with these people about why they live the way they live, and there's some backstory about the village that they're in, and it's just it's a movie that is like a coming of age movie. It's my favorite genre of movies. It's a movie that it's the 95% of the dialogue is in the Irish language, which is why it was eligible for Best International Film Oscar. The movie's based on a short story by Claire Keegan, and it feels like a short story. And I've read the short story. It's actually very, very close to the short story. And it's just an incredible movie from start to finish. There's not a whole lot of dialogue in it. There's not a whole lot of complex plot to it. It's a very simple movie to understand. Anybody could understand it, and I think anybody would be absorbed by the story. It's a beautifully written and observed movie, fantastically shot. The soundtrack is amazing. The performance by all 3 of the main actors are just phenomenal. And the movie, I guess, when I saw it, it sort of snuck up on me a little bit. I figured it was a good movie. It got the Oscar nomination, but I was not expecting the emotional gut punch of that ending, which I think left our whole theater in tears. It's absolute. I'll match Todd. I would probably put this movie somewhere in my at least top 50 at this point. We'll see how the rest of the decade goes, but I would be perfectly satisfied if this ends up being my number 1 of the decade. It's actually a movie that, like when I saw In the Bedroom in 2001, I have not returned to The Quiet Girl. I'm a little intimidated to watch it, but it is available on Hulu. But I think I just need the right mindset and the right place to watch it. But I'm sure it makes a fantastic rewatch, and check it out. Ireland in 2022 was coming up with some pretty good shit there. So I don't know, maybe something was in the potatoes or something.
Nice.
Something was in the potatoes. I remember I was the first one to watch The Quiet Girl out of the 4 of us, and I was the one that gave it like that rousing recommendation, and you ended up watching it and obviously loved it more than I did. Okay, all right, let's get into it. My number 1. Break the suspense here. There were several movies I needed to rewatch this week, and some I thought Some I was kind of scared to rewatch. There were a couple I was scared to rewatch because I didn't know if it would hold up for me on a rewatch. And as Todd said, I've got 2 number ones of years that haven't been mentioned yet. One held up really, really well and became my number one, and one did not hold up at all. And the one that held up really, really well and became my number one is 9 Days. It is my number one of the decade so far.
So your top 100 movie.
Yeah, yeah. The whole top 100 thing for Promising Young Woman was more out of respect than anything else, because it was my number one of that year, and I had 2 movies that were in my top 100. I'm like, oh, I guess I got to put it up there somewhere. But no, it didn't hold up. 9 Days, though, written and directed by Edson Oda, directorial debut. Still doesn't have anything in production. This movie debuted at Sundance 2020, didn't come out until 2021 because of COVID. I rewatched this, and like literally like within like minutes of starting the movie, I was like, no, this is my number one movie of the year, or of the decade so far. It's just this beautiful picture of this man played by Winston Duke, who is his job is to observe life and to watch life happen. And when someone dies, it's his job to decide which soul will be replacing that life in his supervision. And so someone dies, and just someone like his favorite of the people that he watches dies. And then he gets a variety of souls coming through, embodied by grown adults, to coming through his home to try and vie for the role of being the next human. And someone just to be a sounding board that is around for all this is Benedict Wong, who plays Keo. Some of the main people that you get to meet along the way, Zazie Beetz is there, Bill Skarsgård is there, Tony Hale is there as different souls trying to become people. And it becomes this incredible look at psychology and just making you think, what does our world need more of? Like, that's the question Winston Duke's character has to answer. And like, what kind of personality will survive in our world, and different things about him and about his life and the life that he lived before he was given this task in death, helps him determine what he thinks is going to be the best human. And it's just, it's this fascinating, it's a talkie, like all you hear is talking. And then there's just these beautiful moments. It's beautifully shot. It's a movie you just settle into and just love all of. And I fell in love with it all over again, rewatching it this week. I could not get enough of it. I could rewatch it again tonight. It's just such a beautifully gorgeous movie in every way, in sight, in sound, in spirit. A beautiful score too. 9 Days. Nothing was going to top that. That's my number one.
Yeah, you had me at Winston Duke. Good job.
Well, of course I had you at Winston Duke.
Winston Duke leading the movement to bring back VHS. Yes.
He watches a lot of VHS in that movie.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, so I like that movie too. I have it. Let me see where it is. Not nearly as high as you, but one of my issues with the movie is that it reminds me of another movie called Afterlife, made by the great director. Now I'm messing up his name. The guy who did Monster last year, Corrieda. You see, I should assign that movie to you at some point, Terry. But I remember, I think you assigned me 9 Days, and it was very, very similar to Swan Song. Yeah,
it is similar to Swan Song, which was my number 2 of that year too. By Ferd the Hobbit says, out of everybody, my favorite number 1 pick is Zach's pick. Quiet
Thank
Girl.
You.
It is a good pick. I'm not going to argue with it. It is a good pick.
So does my grade go up above Todd's now? I should be at an A-, right? At least. And I mean, let's be honest, Beefer, you haven't seen 3 Minutes of Lengthening. So let's just up my grade to an A, okay? Just take my word for it. That's pretty good too.
Nobody's seen 3 minutes of lengthening.
You've
600
barely seen
people
it.
have.
I was gonna say it's questionable if Zach's seen it. Honestly,
You've seen at least 3 minutes of it.
Exactly.
uh,
I like a
All right.
3-minute movie.
well, let's recap, do some honorable mentions, and then we'll count down our top 5 movies as a website of the decade so far. So Adam, give us your 10-1.
We got Challengers. 9, All Quiet in the Western Front. 8, Godzilla -1. 7, Top Gun Maverick. 6, The Father. 5, Anora. 4, Killers of the Flower Moon. 3, Mass. 2, Babylon. And 1, The Sound of Metal.
All right, and Todd, your top 10.
There's no it's just Sound of Metal. It's cleaner. Just like
By Fur to
the
Hobbit says
Facebook.
Todd is still the best. Just letting you
Thank
everyone
you.
know.
That's not me posting that like Zach does. My number 10 is Quo Vadis Aida. Number 9, Top Gun Maverick. Number 8, Blue Story. Number 7, Killers of the Flower Moon. Number 6, Blackberry. Number 5, The Worst Person in the World. Number 4, Anora. Number 3, The King of Staten Island. Number 2, Daddy-O. And number 1, The Banshees of Inisherin.
The Banshees of Inisherin. All right, Zach, 10-1.
Number 10, The Power of the Dog. Number 9, 3 Minutes a Lengthening, which I have seen. It's the shortest one on my list. I've definitely seen it. Number 8, The Rescue. Number 7, Tori and Lokita, which none of you have seen. Number 6, Tar. Number 5, The Father. Number 4, Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always. Number 3, The Starling Girl. Number 2, Past Lives. And number 1, and Beefer agrees, The Quiet Girl.
All right. And now my top 10. Number 10, Oppenheimer. Number 9, Swan Song. Number 8, The Rescue. Number 7, 1001. Number 6, Nickel Boys. Number 5, Flow. Number 4, Sound of Metal. Number 3, The Father. Number 2, Top Gun Maverick. And number 1, 9 Days. All right. Well, let's do some honorable mentions here and see how that looks, starting with Adam.
Let's go to that.
What do you got?
4 page. There's the all 4. There we go.
There you go.
All right. So I'm just going to read off because we did 25. 11, Barbarian. 12, Tar. 13, Anatomy of a Fall. 14, Another Round. 15, The Novice. 16, The Batman. 17, Oppenheimer. 18, my best documentary is You Cannot Kill David Arquette. Remember that movie, Todd?
Yeah.
The Invisible Man, Blackberry, Palm Springs, Dune, Pearl, Alien Romulus, and Love Lives Bleeding. I lied, and I bled for it. Yeah.
All right,
Nice.
Todd.
All right. I kind of threw this together in Terry City at top 25. I had
Yeah,
some mentioned, but I had a total of 16 4-star movies, by the way. So starting at 11, we have Challengers, A Real Pain, The Father, Robot Dreams, Paris 13th District, A Son, Mass, The Artifice Girl, Palm Springs, Last Night in Soho, Another Round, All Quiet on the Western Front, Elemental, Pig, and Sound of Metal.
Last Night in Soho making the list. Nice.
Hell yeah.
Elemental.
And
Yeah.
Elemental,
Yes.
yeah.
Of course.
Or
I mean,
like
it's
a
the
shout
movies
out
that stick with you now that we're a couple years removed. Yeah, Elemental still is right there.
All right. So Zach, you're next.
All right. Number 25, Pearl. Number 24, First Cow. Number 23, Petite Maman. Number 22, Drive My Car. Number 21, Anatomy of a Fall. Number 20, Falcon Lake. Number 19, Quo Vadis Aida. Number 18, Killers of the Flower Moon. Number 17, Summer of Soul, the Questlove documentary. Great rewatch, by the way. Number 16, Happening. Number 15, Vortex. Number 14, Babylon. Number 13, The Brutalist. Number 12, Good One. And I don't know how I feel about that. I have to put them that way because that's how I rank them on my list, but whatever. And number 11, just missing the list and being a real solid Pinot, or Merlot, I should say. Enhancing that Merlot is Sound of Metal, which my number 11. It felt really bad leaving that off the list. But I kind of agree with Terry. I haven't rewatched it lately, so I don't know. For better or for worse, that impacted my ranking.
I like how
I knew you liked Petite Maman more than you let on when you first watched it, because you were like, yeah, I like it, but it's overrated. But now, yeah, I mean, you're okay with the magical realism.
Rewatch.
I like how three of us are
okay with 69 minutes. That's what I'm okay with. Sorry, go ahead.
I like how three of us are looking at what we did last week and saying, yeah, this might be the top movie of 2024, but the number 2 belongs higher on the list than on this list, on the decade list. We got 3 of us saying that. All right. My top 25, number 11, Promising Young Woman, I put at number 11. It doesn't hold up great. I don't know.
Wasn't that great to begin with?
I know. We'll see how far it'll fall, probably further. Number 12, Sing Sing. 13, American Fiction. 14, Tick Tick Boom. 15, I Have September 5. 16, The Banshees of Inisherin. 17, The Holdovers. 18, Daddy-O. 19, Till. 20, here you go, RRR. It got mentioned. 21, Vengeance with BJ Novak. I love that movie.
Wow.
22, yeah, I did not watch that one again. That was one if I had rewatched it, it might have popped up. We'll see. 22, The Iron Claw. 23, Boys State. 24, Killers of the Flower Moon. And 25, I wanted to put it on the list. Questionable whether it's actually a movie, but Hamilton, I have at 25. I wasn't going to put it on the actual top 10.
You did on your top 10 of the year.
Yeah, but it's like, I'll put it on the top 10, but I'm not going to put it number 1. Just like here, I'll put it in the honorable mentions, but I'm not going to put it in the top 10. Because, questionable movie status there. And yes, our friend was happy that RRR finally got mentioned. You're welcome. So, all right, well, let's wrap this up. Before there actually was breaking news while we were on this podcast. Chip Kelly is the new offensive coordinator for Pete Carroll in Vegas.
Nice.
Yeah. Like actual breaking news. He left Ohio State to go to Vegas and coach with Pete Carroll. So
Chip Kelly and Jim Harbaugh in the same division
again,
or they were in the same conference.
Okay, it'll be weird. Crazy. All right, we got some quotes of the day.
No,
got anything? Adam's got nothing. Oh, you know what that means.
Oh, I forgot about this.
Forgot about it.
That's why I'm here, folks.
All right, Todd, you said you have something. Yes, we do. We love those redheads. What do you got, Todd?
Okay. Mine comes from The King of Staten Island, the 3rd best movie of the decade so far. And it's Bell Powley says to Pete Davidson, "You've been smoking too much," and he says, "I think I'm just stupid." And I feel that way sometimes.
Right.
Zach, you've got something?
I do. My quote comes from Top Gun Maverick, not one of the 10 best movies of the decade or one of the top 25, but a movie that I, of course, have a lot of admiration for. So I can't entirely fault you guys. The quote comes from Rooster, played by Miles Teller, who says, "Come on, Mav, do some of that pilot shit." That's kind of the way I feel when Terry is trying to do something really fancy with our screens. Come on, Terry, do some of that pilot
Very
shit.
clever with a computer.
The computer.
Before I give my quote, I forgot we were going to pay off the top 5 movies of the decade so far on our website. And then I'll give my quote of the day. All right, here is our top 5 of the 2020s so far. Hold on here. Let's see here. I got that one. Number 5, Killers of the Flower Moon. Number 4, Anora. Number 3, Sound of Metal. Number 2, Top Gun Maverick, and number 1, The Father.
The Father.
Nothing was on all 4 lists. There were only 6 overlaps. The only one that didn't make this that was an overlap was The Rescue. But the fact that Todd had kicked off The Father from his list so that he could fulfill his arbitrary rule that he needed 2 from every year.
Well, hey, I was going to have 4 of my top 6 and 5 of my top 10 were going to be from 2024. I couldn't do that.
Yeah,
And then
that's fair.
I had to make some some changes.
All right. Well, my quote of the day. This comes from a post that I found on Blue Sky. This was posted by AP Dirty Bird, and but I feel like it's appropriate to talk about here because I saw it last night after the Luka trade got announced. Luka going to the Lakers for Anthony Davis. He posted, "This is the craziest thing to happen in the NBA since Rudy Gobert started COVID." I mean, let's just take this whole thing full circle to 5 years ago when Rudy Gobert started COVID. He did start COVID. Anyways, that's the first half of the decade in terms of film. We talked about, gosh, there are only 6 overlaps. We talked about a lot of movies. How many movies did we talk about? We talked about 32 movies on this, and still it came in a half hour under last week when we only had 3 of us talking about them. This was awesome. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll be back next week with a deep dive, getting into the superhero frame of mind ahead of the MCU's like mighty comeback with Harrison Ford as Red Hulk. And then in 2 weeks is the big one.
Yay!
We have our Pinos in 2 weeks. Make sure to check us out. We'll be live on YouTube for that as well, revealing the best of all sorts of different stuff from 2024, from the traditional picture actor, actress to, whoever was the biggest douchebag of the last year. So we do a lot of fun stuff. You got to check us out for that. We'll all be in the same room, which will be chaotic as always. It's going to be great. Pinot Booyah. I like it by For the Hobbit. Make sure you're there.
Pinot
for that one.
with a T at the end, by the way.
Oh, it does have a T at the end. It's French, as most of Zach's favorite movies are.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll catch you next week with another episode. Until then, have fun watching movies, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
Catch you on a Monday.
Hit it.
Hello, it's Osborne Cox. Who the are you?
Well done.
Why is that even a soundbite? We hear that all the time.
End it now.
Seems
That's
redundant.
That's the ending.
That's the ending.